They go into a beautiful hall, where some servants are ready to receive them. Please follow them, says Lazarus. You will be able to refresh yourselves before the morning meal. And while Jesus and Simon go into another room, Lazarus gives instructions to the servants. I can see that the house belongs to wealthy people, and it is also a very refined one. Jesus drinks some milk, which Lazarus insists on serving him personally, before sitting at the table for the morning meal. I hear Lazarus addressing Simon and saying to him, I have found the man who is willing to purchase your property and to pay the price which your agent fixed as a fair one. He will not deduct 1 drachma. Lazarus responds, but is he willing to comply with my conditions? Yes, he is. He accepts everything, providing he gets the property. And I am happy, because at least I know who my neighbour is. However, as you do not want to be present at the transaction, so he also wishes to remain unknown to you, and I would ask you to yield to his request. Lazarus responds, I see no reason why I should not. You, my friend, will take my place. Whatever you do is well done. It is enough for me that my faithful servant is not put out. Master, I'm selling, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm happy that I have nothing more that may tie me to anything which is not your service. But I have an old, faithful servant, the only one left after my misfortune. And as I have already told you, he has always helped me during my isolation, looking after my property as if it were his own, nay, with the help of Lazarus, passing it off as his own, in order to save it and thus subsidize me. Now, it would not be fair if I should leave him homeless now that he is old. I have decided that a small house near the boundary of the property should be his, and that part of the money should be given to him for his future maintenance. Old people, you know, are like ivy. Having lived always in one place, they suffer too much being torn away from it. Lazarus wanted my servant with him because he is good. But I preferred thus. The old man will not suffer so much. You are good too, Simon. If everybody were as just as you are, my mission would be easier, remarks Jesus. Do you find the world averse, Master? Asks Lazarus. The world? No. The strength of the world. Satan. If he were not the master of men's hearts, and did not hold them in his possession, I would not find any resistance. But evil is against good, and I have to defeat evil in every man, to put good into them, and they are not all willing. It is true, they are not willing, Master. What words do you use to convert and convince those who are sinful? Words of severe reproach, like the ones that fill the history of Israel against guilty people, and the precursor is the last to use them, or words of mercy? I use love and mercy, says Jesus. Believe me, Lazarus, a loving glance has more power on those who have fallen than a curse. And if love is mocked at, Jesus says, one must insist again. Insist to the very utmost. Lazarus, do you know those lands where quicksands swallow unwary people? Yes, I do. I have read about them, because in my situation I read a lot, both out of enthusiasm and to pass the long sleepless hours at night. I know there are some in Syria and in Egypt, as well as some near the Chaldeans. And I know that they are like suckers. They suck what they catch. A Roman says they are the mouths of hell where pagan monsters live. Is that true? No, it's not true, says Jesus. They are only special formations of the earth. Olympus has nothing to do with them. People will stop believing in Olympus, and they will still exist. And the progress of mankind will only be able to give a more truthful explanation of the fact, but will not eliminate it. Now I say to you, since you read about them, you may also have read how a person who has fallen into them can be saved. Yes, by means of a rope thrown to the person, or by means of a pole, or even a branch. Sometimes a small thing is sufficient to give a sinking man the minimum support to hold on to, and in addition, the necessary calm without struggling to await rescue. Well, Jesus says, a sinner, a man possessed, is one who has been swallowed by a deceitful soil, the surface of which is covered with flowers, whereas underneath it is quicksand. Do you think that if a man knew what it means to give Satan the possession of even an atom of himself, he would do it? But he does not know. And after, either the astonishment and the poison of evil paralyze him, or drives him mad, and to avoid the remorse of being lost, he struggles, he clings to other sands, he stirs up huge waves with his rash movements, and thus hastens his own end. Love is the rope, the wire, the branch mentioned by you. We must insist until it is caught. A word, forgiveness, a forgiveness greater than the fault, just to stop the sinking and await God's assistance. Lazarus, do you know the power of forgiveness? It brings God to assist the rescuer. Do you read much? Yes, I do, says Lazarus. But I do not know whether I do the right thing. My disease and other things have deprived me of many of the delights of men. And now I have but the passion of flowers and books, for plants and also for horses. I know that I am criticised for it. But how can I go to my estate in this condition? And he uncovers 2 huge legs all bandaged up. On foot or riding a mule? I must use a cart, and a fast one. That is why I bought some horses, of which I am now very fond, I admit. But if you tell me that is wrong, I will have them sold. No, Lazarus. These are not corrupting things. What upsets the soul and drives away from God is a cause of corruption. Now, Master, Lazarus says, what I would like to know is this. I read a lot. I have but this comfort. I like to learn. I think that after all, it is better to know than to do wrong. It is better to read than to do other things. But I do not read only our pages. I like to learn about the world of other peoples, and I'm attracted by Rome and Athens. Now, I'm aware of the great evil that befell Israel when she became corrupted by the Assyrians and the Egyptians, and of the great harm done to us by Hellenistic governments. I do not know whether a man can do himself the same harm that Judas did himself and us, his children. What is your opinion on the matter? I'm anxious to be taught by you, as you are not a rabbi but the wise and divine Word. Jesus stares at him for a few seconds. His glance is penetrating and distant at the same time. He seems to pierce Lazarus's opaque body and scrutinize his heart, and penetrating even further, he appears to see, I wonder what. At last he speaks. Are you upset by what you read? Does it detach you from God and his law? No, Master, Lazarus replies. On the contrary, it urges me to make comparisons between our true God and pagan falseness. I make comparisons, and I meditate on the glories of Israel, her just people, the patriarchs, the prophets, and the questionable figures of other people's histories. I compare our philosophy, if we can call so the wisdom that speaks in our sacred texts, with the poor Greek and Roman philosophies, which contain sparks of fire, but not the blaze that burns and shines in the books of our wise men. And after, with greater veneration, I bow down with my soul to adore our God, who speaks in Israel through deeds, people, and our books. Well then, says Jesus, continue to read. It will help you to understand the pagan world. Continue. You may continue. There is no ferment of evil or of spiritual gangrene in you. You, therefore, may read without any fear. The love you have for your God makes sterile the profane germ that reading might spread in you. In all man's actions, there is the possibility of good and of evil. It depends on how they are accomplished. Love is not a sin if one loves in a holy way. Work is not a sin if one works when it is the right time. To earn is not a sin if one is satisfied with what is honest. To educate oneself is not a sin, providing the education does not kill the idea of God in us, whereas it is a sin to serve also at the altar if one does it for one's own benefit. Are you convinced, Lazarus? Yes, Master. I asked other people the same question, and they scorned me. But you give me light and peace. Oh, if everybody heard you. Come, Master. Amongst the jasmines there is a cool breeze and silence. It is sweet to rest under their cool shade, awaiting the evening. They go out, and it all finishes.